Joining us now, Liz Peek. Liz, a noted economist. She also worked on Wall Street. She was one of the first women hedge fund managers and rose high up, was a victim of sexual harassment herself many times and had to deal with that. And she just had an article the other day on The Hill talking about the Trump tax cut and the impact it's going to have. Liz Peek, good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, Liz, all these allegations now coming out against the president, two of them have already been debunked because eyewitnesses says, it never happened. Now we have a young lady coming out yesterday saying that Trump sexually misconducted her, kissed her as a receptionist in the Trump organization. Yet, once again, she didn't go to HR, no witnesses, and the president has no history of this at work. What's the deal?
Well, look, I think this is what feminists across the country really should fear, is that this begins to tip over into the silly and mundane, and secondarily that there's such an enormous tsunami of such accusations, not just against the president, but against all kinds of public figures, that people begin to tune it out. I was reading this morning the New York Times account of, a congressman who's been now hauled up on charges of sexual misconduct, and really most of it had to do with temperament, yelling at people, telling crude jokes, etc. You know what? Hello, guys. This is kind of normal life. There are people out there who have a potty mouth and who not very well controlled. In the case of Donald Trump, this whole narrative that these women have to be heard, it seems to me we did hear them. We heard them before the election. The mainstream media, for sure, gave people a lot of attention who came out accusing Donald Trump of this or that. In the Times this morning, they talked about, I think, Trump ogling women in the dressing room at the Miss Universe contest. Hello, a healthy man is going to ogle gorgeous women. I mean, again, I think the concern here, look, if President Trump has attacked a woman in some way that is really injurious, we need to know about that. He needs to be brought up, for an investigation of that, perhaps, or whatever. But I think these charges of fondling and so forth, as you say, without any witnesses and so forth, I think you really begin to demean the women who really have been hurt. And that, I think, is a shame.
Look, I think you're spot on. My wife, Ann, was an executive with the St. Paul Insurance Company, female executive in a male-dominated industry, and she told me the story. She would get Google, all that stuff going on, Googled and crude comments made, and she said she would go to as a young executive, and she was, rising in the company, and very good-looking woman, and she would go to the copy machine, and some of the guys in the cubicle would pull out a pair of binoculars and look at her butt. And she didn't even go to HR. She just went over them and say, hey, dude, knock it off, okay?
Thank you. I mean,
knock it off.
I agree with that. I mean, that seems to me the kind of behavior that we've all confronted. There's a lot of men who are just plain silly and badly behaved, and apparently their mothers never told them not to do this stuff. But, most people I know, most women in the professional world, basically did exactly what your wife did. They went up and said, please, don't act like a jackass. What are you doing? I mean,
that's basically what she said.
And generally speaking, men would, back off. I mean, they kind of go, it's like teenagers, forgive me, but men will go as far as you let them go, and then they kind of back off. And now, again, this is not to say that there are not plenty of instances where men cross that line and where damage was done, and people were not just feelings hurt, but really physically hurt or emotionally hurt. That's very different, but the trouble is people are beginning to conflate the two.
Well, look, they have to come out with this, Liz, because, and I know we've only got a couple minutes, you have to take off, but if this tax cut passes in your column the other day.
They're scared to death, John. They are scared to death.
Exactly.
Because if the tax cut passes, there will be something actual, real, that the entire country knows that Donald Trump accomplished that will help the economy even further accelerate. I wrote a column for Fox this week about the fact that Trump isn't being given, or Obama wants credit for where we are in the economy now. He doesn't get credit for that because the minute he was elected, there was this benevolent chain reaction of rising confidence, which led to rising spending, which led to rising hiring, and all the good things that have followed, earnings, stock market, et cetera. That's what happened. You can date it. You can date it from November 8th, 2016. There is no argument about this. So when people tell you Trump hasn't got anything to do with what's going on in the economy, it truly is not right. And so, yes, now Democrats are up against the wall. They are desperate to take the House in 2018. Here's what could happen, and I really think people are giving much too little credit to this. The tax cut goes through. The economy continues on its merry path. In the meantime, the administration begins to focus on infrastructure, which is far and away the most popular thing they could do right now. You end up with a conversation about infrastructure, possibly a bill passing before the elections next year, and the Democrats are toast because they have absolutely nothing to offer.
Bingo. There it is.
Yeah.
They're scared to death of the Trump economy and what I'm coining as Trumponomics, which is, there's a whole litany of things that go down, infrastructure, et cetera. It's never been put together, but you start to add them up. They're petrified. They see victory. They see the big offices. They see the staff coming back. They see the power. They see the donor money. It's all right there. It's in front of them. Their message, Trump sucks. Now, here's what happens if you go into November 2018, with the tax cut done and the economy growing 3.8, 3.9, 4%, along with deregulation, along with coming infrastructure. Now you've got jobs going up, wages going up, companies staying in the United States. You get that $3 trillion in money overseas come back. That spurs investment. Business tax cuts go down. They're not going to take the money and just give it to their shareholders, all right? Because if they did that, then they would invite competition, because somebody would open up a competing company and say, let's see, they're paying 35% tax because the reduction's going to their stakeholders. I can compete with them and pay 20% tax. I'm going to win because I'll have better product, lower prices. I mean, don't these people understand how the economy works?
No.
All this is going to happen.
And by the way, John, I do have to go, but and it's not just Democrats who don't understand how this thing works. There are a number of Republicans who don't understand how it works. And as they haggle over the final stretch here in the tax bill, we're kind of seeing that. There are a number of Republicans who actually don't believe that lower taxes are a good thing for the economy. And this is, you and I have talked in the past about how the GOP is horrific at messaging.
Horrible.
Somebody out there has got to become a spokesperson for the GOP and begin to put out talking points like the Democrats have every 30 seconds, where they all are singing from the same hymnal. The Republicans can't even find the tune. It is pathetic. So, yes, we need this tax cut. I sure as heck hope it works, because then maybe it will begin to bring people around to what is good for the economy. And it is not the pessimism, uber regulation, and higher taxes of the Obama era.
Economic expansion and economic growth right now, better jobs and better wages, is the enemy of the Democrats going into the midterms. It's their enemy. They want to squash it, as do some Republicans that just hate Trump. They would rather screw the country than have this guy be successful. It's sick, Liz. Sick.
I agree.
Thanks for being with us. Liz
Thank
Peek.
you. Thanks
can read Liz
for having me
on the Hill, as always, and go to @Liz Peek on Twitter. John Fredericks Radio Network.